Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Richie. Once again, here, 12 Step Up. Um, we have my friend Rugan. What's up, Rugan?
What's going on, man?
Before I forget, can you guys please like, follow, and subscribe? Um, Rugan, how much time do you have? How much clean
Um,
time, sober time do you have?
Clean time, sober time coming up on 3.5 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
I'm pretty amazed by it as well.
I've known you for about 3.5 years as well. Um, you want to tell us a little bit about your experience with alcohol and drugs?
Sure. Well, it started young, 14 years old, probably 13 or 14. My dad had told me at a young age that you're probably going to be alcoholic, and so that, and I got brought into a 12-step group pretty young as well,
So
and
you were sentenced really early, huh?
yeah, I was dad ordered, not
That
court ordered.
ordered. All right.
But um, so I mean, I suffered consequences from it pretty early, stealing from my parents, getting in trouble, that kind of stuff. Um, and wound up in a treatment center in Yakima, Sundown M Ranch. Um, so I learned from then on to essentially not get caught using, drinking, um, so that I wouldn't have to go back to that place.
Yeah.
Um,
Why you didn't like that place, or it just what was it that you?
well, I
Why didn't you
loved
want to
I
go back?
loved drinking. I loved
Okay.
getting high. Like it was
So you weren't
something.
ready. It wasn't something that you wanted to do,
Right,
but your dad
right.
felt that you had to
Yeah.
go there.
Well, and he's been a lifetime alcoholic too,
Okay.
and drug addict as
So
well.
he knew.
But yeah, and he has experience with 12 step and programs, and so I see now in hindsight that he was just doing it because he was scared, right? Because he knows
Yeah.
from his own experience.
Most of our parents know us, and they know where we're headed.
Sure.
Whether we see it or not, we need to go out there and do a lot of experimenting. Um,
Yeah, I wasn't interested in it though. I
right.
mean, it was like something that I was missing for a long time. So, and I can't really describe and put much thought into the details of how far it took over. I just know that when I took my first drink, it was just like tunnel vision after that. Like I just went after it. That's all I wanted. So,
How bad did it get for you? Like, how did some people, they get into like car wrecks, or they go to jail for petty crimes or major
right.
crimes? How bad did it get for you to, you know, find help?
Yeah, it got really bad towards the end, but it was a pretty slow process. It took me around 14, 15 years to finally crash and burn, but there was many dips before then. Um, and it was progressive. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't that extreme at first, but I mean when I was 18, I got kicked out, because I was still doing what I wanted to do. 6 months later, I got a Resberg charge, so I wound up in jail for the first time, some felony charges. Um, and then after that, I wasn't like nothing crazy, but it was selling weed, partying, stuff like that for a little bit. And but I mean, I would just get into all kinds of different drugs. I mean, pills, hallucinogens, um, and it just slowly escalated.
Yeah.
Around 24, 25, I had smoked uh, crystal for the first time, and man, my life burned down really quick after that. I mean,
Yeah.
it got pretty bad fast, and um, ended up in Sundown again at 25 years old. And that time, I thought I had wanted to go, but I knew I had a drug problem. But it was really hard for me to wrap my head around being an alcoholic because the drugs were so destructive. But like when I would be coming down or whatever the case. Like alcohol would always be there to fix it, like it would make me feel better.
A lot of people like you and I, we never had a problem with alcohol.
Right.
It's funny, but
I can
it's
drink just fine,
right,
Yeah,
right, right, until we can't.
right.
So you want to give us a like one of your worst experiences, and you don't have to be detailed about it, but um, what was one of your worst moments?
Um, well, after after that treatment center, that second time, I did a geographic and I moved to Alaska with my mom.
Okay.
Because I thought that Tri Cities was the problem. If I could just get away from Tri
Yeah.
Cities and the people in it, I'd be okay. Um, and it turns out that people in Alaska really like to drink a lot,
Yeah.
So, and the bars are open pretty frequently. And so, trying to convince myself that I wasn't an alcoholic or people there, it didn't really work out well for me because I couldn't stop drinking. It was like I went to an IT school there for a little bit and ended up graduating. But I mean, it was like nonstop, fifth or two a day. Drank myself into stomach ulcers, and then when I came back here to Tri Cities, I started shooting dope, and it was just waiting there for me. And my worst experience would be a little further on down the line. Um, I never really liked to just do one thing. I was always a mixer,
Right.
you know. I
So
was
much
always
more fun, huh?
Yeah, well, and I was always managing it too.
Right.
Like I'd
Right.
get bugged out on an upper, and I'd have to level out on a downer or
Right.
come back up, and it's this constant teeter totter game,
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I was on a normal run, maybe 5 or 6 days being awake, and my wife. Oh, and then I ate a Xanax bar, and I think I had blacked out, and my wife had given me a shot of some brown while I was in that blackout, and she did one herself. And when she came to, I was face first in the kitchen sink, and she pulled me back, and my face was all blue. I was foaming from the mouth, and she dragged me out into the living room, and you know, started blowing clouds of meth into my face to try and like revive me, and I ended up coming back. And I remember coming out of that whole scenario. I don't remember any of that happening, but I remember coming to, and everyone around me was freaked out, dude. And we're in a dope house too, so there was like multiple people there. She's crying, people are all shooken up, they're scared, and I'm like, what the fuck? What happened? And like my whole face is numb, my right leg's numb, and she said that you were pretty much dead, like you had overdosed, and the first thing I thought was just, I need another hit, and I think that like that shame, that fear, that remorse of what I was doing to myself, the only way I knew how to cover that back up was another to get high again, to keep going. And that's always stuck with me. That was probably it scared me the most for sure, you know.
Okay. Which how did you when was it that you decided that enough was enough? Did somebody tell you enough was enough? I'm sure many people told you enough was enough, but when did you know that enough was enough?
Um, well, there was two times, and the first time, it was a couple months after that incident. I had been living on the streets, sleeping down in Columbia Park in the public restroom, essentially, and it was like, fuck, it was like 117 degrees out. It was hot, dude. It was hot. And I hadn't showered in so long. I was so miserable. And I remember calling up my dad and you know, basically telling him that he needs to let me come live with him, right? Because that's all I need, a place to stay. I'm not a drug addict. I don't got a drinking. I just need somewhere to stay.
Right.
I need a job, right? And
Convince yourself.
right. And he told me to go to the Alano Club because they got air conditioning. They got people there that'll help me. I remember just being like, "Fuck you," and like hanging up on him, calling my mom, telling her I'm gonna kill myself. The manipulative
Yeah.
bullshit that we we put the people
Yeah.
that love us the most through, you know. And and then I just remember being like, remembering that he said air conditioning, and I remember going to the Alano Club, not intending to get sober, but intending to find somebody to let me live with them,
Right.
you know. And and I ended up meeting somebody. A lot of people know him around here, and he takes guys like me in, and he brought me in, dude. And you know, it was a trip because I totally didn't expect it. Like it happened to me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of walked in on recovery, you know. And so, in a nutshell, that was like the first surrender, but it was like it wasn't really. Actually, it wasn't a surrender. The second one was because after 9 months, you know, I had this expectation that my wife was going to get sober, and she didn't, and I relapsed again. And everything I had gained in that 9 months of sobriety, you know, I ended up getting a really good union job, starting an apprenticeship. Um, Ended up restoring things with my dad, you know, and started gaining trust, doing some step work, and and I threw it all away, you know, and based off of a big resentment, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like after all I did for her, you know, that kind of bullshit, like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yep.
Childish stuff. But, you know, it took what it took. And that second time out was miserable. Yeah. I mean, I lost everything like really quick. And then all in one single day, you know, I had got fired from my job, my career, and my wife had gotten arrested. And in booking, she found out she was pregnant. We didn't know how we were going to pay the rent or anything. Like everything just completely blew up and ruined. And I remember sitting there and trying to get as much of like any kind of chemical, uppers, downers, liquor, as much as I could into my system to get that to go away, because like every time I had lost a girlfriend or a job or a friend or any kind of relationship had blown up, drugs and alcohol would always fix it, dude. It would
Yeah.
always make it go away. And I just didn't give a shit anymore. And I remember I could not get enough in me to turn it off. Like it just got way too loud. And I saw like the wave and the trajectory that my life was going to go, you know. And I guess it was like a moment of clarity or something. But I think I saw the entirety of my problem from like every angle, you know. And I guess it's that fully conceding to our innermost self thing like happened to me. And I knew deep down inside that I was just done. Like I couldn't do it anymore, you know? And all types of crazy shit happened after that. But way before I even got into the steps fully. But it was just like this massive surrender, you know, that just kind of it was a very painful and necessary experience, and it was essentially where I was reborn, if you would call it. So
So that brings me to my next point. And your wife. I love you, you and your wife. You guys are awesome. You guys are very good friends of ours. And how did you guys pull through?
I don't know, honestly. Like I have no idea.
That's a loaded question, I know.
Like I know for a fact it had nothing to do with us, you
Right.
know. Besides the decision to walk towards this higher power thing or towards recovery, towards the same goal, because it hasn't been easy. You
Yeah.
know, it's been. I mean, we've had some pretty brutal fights along the way. Um, I mean, you're talking about total incomprehensible demoralization and like coming out of this rubble, you know, and like while she's pregnant,
Yeah.
you know, and just like you know how it is with the emotional like ups and downs and detoxing and prey to misery, depression, you know, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, it wasn't easy. So like how, yeah, that's a loaded question. And I guess the only best way for me to answer that would be the 12 steps.
Right.
That would be the simplest way for me to put it.
Because I see you guys, and I've seen you guys, you know, early in sobriety, and
You were like, man, I hope that kid makes it.
yeah, I did. I used to say that. I would tell my wife, man, I hope he really makes it. I hope he really makes it. And look at you now, And I think you guys are a huge inspiration to many.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are an inspiration to me because um, I know you guys, and I know that you guys have struggled, but you guys always pull. And I think what you guys do for yourselves is a total reflection of your 12-step program and what it does for you,
Mm-hmm.
and what it does for your family. And you guys have an awesome kid.
Yeah.
So, having said all that, what's how is it now as far as like, because I've heard you say, I have a wife now. I never wanted a wife. I have a
Yeah.
job. I didn't want a job,
Yeah. It's
and
real.
yeah, it's real.
Yeah. It's
How
true.
does it feel? I mean, like looking back, right? How does it feel now that you have this?
Um, Honestly, it feels good most of the time,
Yeah,
but there's ups and downs with it,
of course.
and I have a tendency to focus on the negative at times,
Right.
for sure. But in the overall scheme of things, it's a trip, dude. Like sometimes I can't even believe it,
Yeah.
because like I would always tell my mom because she would be like, "Don't worry, when you're a parent, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about here." I'm like, I'm never gonna be a parent. I'm never having kids. Like, screw that. And like, I really held on to that mentality, especially when I got into using drugs and drinking, because I guess I intuitively knew that like, if I had a kid, that comes with a lot of responsibility,
Yes.
So I ran from that, and I really avoided it, and I was terrified of it. And having a wife, I couldn't ever picture myself having that because I didn't trust women, and that's been quite a journey, experiencing and learning what trust is and what love is. It's completely different and contrary to what I thought it was growing up, you know.
Takes a
And
lot of work. Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of banging your head up against stuff too, like it just does because I think I heard somewhere that says like emotional turmoil before serenity,
Right.
and it's like with my wife, she's like my best friend, and we were out there in the trenches together, like in dope houses, and we've seen each other at our worst, and we've risen together,
And that's why I think you guys are so awesome because you guys were in the trenches, and I think that's why. And I think I speak for a lot of people that are around you. I think you guys are an inspiration because of that. Because um, when I came into sobriety, I just got out of a relationship. I ruined two families.
Yeah.
My first family, my second family, and I told myself, I'll never have another kid, and I'll never get married again.
Yeah.
And then here I am with
Right.
another family, and
And you have a great family.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
But I think the way you walk your 12-step program is honest, and I see you helping a lot of men. How does that feel? Like, how does that? And I know because I've helped a lot of men as well, and sometimes it's a beautiful thing to watch people, grow,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's heartbreaking to see people just lose the war. I've seen it personally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how does it feel for you?
Honestly, like the helping others thing from the beginning, I wasn't very excited about that part. I was like, damn, like
Selfish and
that's
self-centered,
the
huh?
that's the payoff, like for real. That sucks. But you experience you experience what it feels like to help somebody,
Right.
and I don't get a lot of opportunities to sponsor people
Hmm.
in 12-step work per se, but
Hmm.
like, helping set up at a function,
Right.
or giving somebody a ride,
Right.
or sharing, talking, at in a group setting, or my wife's an alcoholic, so I like to think that I'm working with others like all the time. You know what I mean? Because she calls me on my bullshit, and I call her on her bullshit. I mean, I take her inventory all the time,
Oh, that's awesome.
and she returns the favor.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's totally willing to do that for me.
That she is so nice. That's She is so nice that she's willing to do that for you.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? Relationships are pretty awesome. They can be hard. I know that, but you get to learn so much. You
Yeah,
get
I
to learn
think
so
I'm just
much.
scratching the surface on helping others.
Yeah,
I haven't really seen much in that realm, but I will say I have experienced being helped
yeah,
quite a bit, and that's powerful. Like it kind of gets me like a little emotional
yeah,
when I think about it.
yeah,
What people have done for me, especially in this short amount of time,
yeah. That's
and I'm sure that'll prompt some action.
yeah. I think we lead by example, right? And so um, I always tell people that I help out. Um, you know, a lot of people help me.
Hmm.
That's why I'm always willing to help. Um, my son has asked me, how'd you do it? And I always tell him I took a lot of men to help me out
Yeah,
to see what I was not seeing
yeah.
and to learn what I was not learning. And it's a pretty fun ride, dude.
Yeah, and it's getting better too.
Yeah.
Like, especially as I continue to do step work, I've noticed doing, in particular, some ninth step work and some amends from my past. Um, Being forgiven for certain things has allowed me to give that out to other people as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's been a trip. And actually, I wanted to talk about one other thing because early in sobriety, I got um, blessed and very fortunate with like a lot of stuff, a lot of things, a wife, a beautiful son. I got to be sober and watch him get born, and that rocked my world
Yeah.
in ways that is still unfolding,
Yeah.
and I got a crazy good job that has I've climbed the ladder like way quicker than I probably should have. That's not me doing that either,
Right.
that's a
Right.
direct result from all of this stuff we're talking about, and I recognize that. But I I let all of that get in the way in the first couple years of my sobriety. It's like I got way too focused on the gifts versus what was giving them to me, you know. And what ended up happening is I got thoroughly miserable. Like around this was 6 months ago. This happened, so all the way up even to my third year, you know, and you know, bringing in all this money, focusing on my bank account, focusing on my wife, focusing on my son, trying to wrest satisfaction out of them, squeeze it out,
Yep.
force
Yep.
it, rigid, it got painful. It got really painful. And I hit this bottom in sobriety that I didn't think it was possible to feel that shitty. And I think that was my real like second surrender, if you would call it, is like these things are not going to bring me satisfaction and happiness. That only comes from spiritual stuff, you know, through step work, through,
That takes a lot to say because most people won't admit to that.
right.
Um, that's, dude, that takes a lot, man.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. And I'm glad you saw through that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you saw through that. And I know I've seen you, and it, you're one of those people that I enjoy watching growing because I see the gifts unfold, you know,
Hmm.
and a lot of times it takes us quite a bit for us to see it.
Yeah.
but other people see it,
Right.
and I'm glad you mentioned that because a lot of people won't ever mention that. and,
Hmm.
and I'm glad that you were able to find your way out of that, you know.
Yeah, I'm grateful too because now I can just work 40 hours a week and come home to my family,
Yeah.
stay involved and focused on what's important
how
today.
did you how did you did somebody call you on it, or did you see it yourself?
Um, I seen it myself, and it was a.
That's badass.
I think I think people were warning me about it,
Okay.
but they didn't want to push me away, because I'm the kind of person that it's like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Very stubborn, hard headed kind of guy,
Yeah.
and I really gotta crack my skull on the concrete a couple times in order to get it. I don't understand why. Hopefully, it doesn't continue on that way, but that's just how I've always been.
But you know what, dude? You have like this gift of being honest,
Mm.
and and you're not ashamed of it, and that's more than a lot of people can say because you continue to grow, and
Right.
I think you already got a taste of that. I don't think you'll go back to that again.
Well, it's the pain.
It's the pain.
It's the pain.
Exactly.
It's like it got so painful where
Yeah.
it's like I can't take it anymore.
Right.
I throw in the towel. I surrender.
So what did
So,
you do? Like you got into action? Would it started going to like more meetings and or
well, I started going through the steps again,
okay.
and this time it it was very desperate. Like there was an amount of willingness that was mustered up that I hadn't had before,
Okay.
and I dug deep, especially in 4 through 9. And particularly on the 4 step. Taking that inventory, thorough, fearless. There was stuff I did not want to talk about, and I was very afraid to talk about. That was humiliating, you know, and getting it out in the open, seeing patterns throughout my life of how I'm showing up in certain situations, in my own resentments, how I'm setting the ball rolling,
Right.
seeing that my problems are of my own making and not other people's, and seeing these patterns. And it's like talking about it with this guy and, you know, doing the 6 and 7, calling him that next day. He was like, "So how do you feel?" And I was like, "Well, I'm still all messed up. And I thought I would be perfect by now. But I had that sense of accomplishment that I didn't leave any stones unturned.
Right.
Like I was thorough. Like very, very thorough, as much as I could have been. And I probably was a little um, perfectionismist about it in a sense, but I didn't want to feel that feeling again. And I'll have to go back through it again. I realize that more shit's gonna come up, but I just wanted to be honest, and what I've gotten is a honest appraisal about myself.
Right.
Seeing who I am, seeing what's driving me, self-centered fears
Hmm.
below the level of consciousness that move me, and I've been noticing these things show up in my life, like everyday life interactions with people who have instincts just like me, you know, seeing it in action and trying
Yeah.
to apply it
Yeah.
and trying to do the deal, essentially. But
Do you have any suggestions for anybody trying? So, like, any suggestions as far as like for anybody trying to like get sober? I mean, this is why we started this channel so that we can help people out that are trying to get sober, don't know how to get sober.
hmm
Do you have any suggestions for anybody out there?
yeah, like my suggestion would be to just dive all the way in, like just get involved
Whichever
because
12-step program works, right?
yeah, whatever it is for you, but like go in there, because for me, I don't do what I did. Like I was very um, timid and afraid of people, and I didn't want to get involved in the program, in the fellowship,
Right.
you know. Um, and it just you don't have to produce your own misery like that. You can just go in there and just give it your all,
That's right.
and don't get distracted. Don't get distracted by the gifts. that you give that you get given, because I think just being sober without even doing the steps, you're gonna get some gifts just from that. Even, like, you're gonna be given probably a good job, or whatever the case may be, a family. And don't get distracted, because you can wind up in the same place you were before you came in sober, and that is painful because you have no way to treat it.
Right.
You know.
All right, guys. Well, this was Rugan. Once again, 12 Step Up. Please like, subscribe. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Right on. Thanks, dude.